Welcome back to the official Colorado Sports Hall of Fame podcast. I'm Dave Plati.
And I'm Jim Saccomano. The two of us have 90 years of experience combined working in Colorado sports. Myself with the Broncos and Dave with the Buffaloes, and both of us with the old Denver Bears, among our many experiences.
We have been revealing 150 significant moments in Colorado sports history. The state's 150th birthday is this Saturday, as on August 1st, 1876, Colorado was admitted to the Union as the 38th state. Little history lesson for you all. A veteran committee ranked the top 50 of those moments, all from over 2,000 that have been identified to date. Those were ranked by a committee with over 800 years combined of covering and/or working in Colorado sports.
We are now up to our number 5 moment, having previously covered numbers 6 through 150. The top 50 moments were debated and then ranked by that committee. For numbers 51 through 150, we covered significant moments scattered around the state and most, if not all, sports. All are archived on the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame website with our podcast. Just go to coloradosports.org, click on the menu bar, and then top 150 moments or podcasts.
But first, here's 4 moments in Colorado sports history that weren't in those 150.
On March 7th, 1977, new Denver Bronco head coach Red Miller engineered a trade with the New Orleans Giants, acquiring quarterback Craig Morton for fellow signal caller Steve Ramsey. In one of the most significant trades in Bronco history at that time, the 34-year-old, 13-year NFL veteran beat out Steve Spurrier and Craig Penrose for the starting job and would lead Denver to its first division and conference titles and to its first Super Bowl appearance.
On January 22nd, 1967, the Broncos traded future Hall of Fame quarterback Willie Brown and quarterback Mickey Slaughter to the Oakland Raiders for lineman Rex Mirich and a 3rd-round draft pick. Might have got fleeced on that one.
That's for sure, Dave. On March 4th, 2004, the Broncos acquired cornerback Champ Bailey for running back Clinton Portis in a trade with the Washington Redskins.
And on August 23, 1993, the Broncos traded 3 draft picks, including their 1994 first-rounder for offensive tackle and future Pro Football Hall of Famer Gary Zimmerman, just prior to the final game in the preseason.
This is Mark Johnson, voice of the Colorado Buffaloes. As we count down the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, it's worth remembering that great sports moments don't just happen. They're built on preparation, resilience, and staying healthy. And in Colorado, a great sports moment can mean something different to everyone, from Hall of Fame athletes to anyone who simply wants to keep moving. Whether you're chasing championships, personal bests, or just a pain-free morning run, the team at CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center delivers exceptional sports medicine care, from prevention and recovery to performance. Founded right here in Boulder, the CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center brings together CU medicine providers and Boulder community health clinicians to provide comprehensive care that's close to home and rooted in the community they serve. Learn more at cusportsmedicincenter.com.
And now, like we're with Mission Control, our countdown continues.
The number 5 greatest moment in state of Colorado sports history.
On May 2nd, 1983, to date, the biggest trade in Denver sports history with arguably the best results. 5 days after the 1983 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Colts traded quarterback John Elway to the Broncos for offensive lineman Chris Hinton, quarterback Mark Herman, and Denver's first-round pick in the '84 draft. Trade was finalized in the late afternoon. The Broncos set a 10:30 press conference to introduce Elway, despite across town the Nuggets were hosting San Antonio in an NBA playoff game. Most of the media covering that game split to Broncos headquarters for the presser. Elway spent his entire 16-year career with the Broncos, and it's our great pleasure to welcome 2-time Super Bowl champion and member of the NFL's 100th anniversary all-time team, quarterback John Elway.
Well, hello.
Welcome, John.
John.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you. Would you recount the whirlwind from your perspective of those events? And were there any other teams close before Denver made the winning offer, when we traded for you?
You know what? There really weren't, because first of all, we were surprised that there wasn't a deal done before the draft. And so really, because there wasn't a deal done before the draft, really wasn't sure that deal was going to get done. And obviously, from what we were hearing, is Baltimore was pretty, tough in their stance of what they wanted. And so really didn't have any expectations. I was really kind of planning on, because the plan the whole time was to play baseball for the year and then put my name back in the draft and, the following year. And so that was kind of where my mindset was at that time. And then I ended up getting a call from Marvin Demoff, who was my agent, and said that, you can't tell anybody, but it looks like we may have a deal with Denver. And so that was probably about what I remember, 4:00 in the afternoon. And Marvin said, well, there's going to be a plane to pick you up at San Francisco Oakland Airport at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever that, don't remember exactly the time. And they was coming back to Denver, and they got the deal done. So I had what I remember about it, that about 8 of my buddies in my dorm, or in my frat house where I was staying my senior year at Stanford. And I didn't even tell them, because I wanted to play football and I didn't want the deal to get blown up. So I didn't even tell them. So obviously I got in trouble when I got back after they heard it on the news that I got traded, because I didn't tell them either. But, was thrilled, obviously. And Denver was quite the surprise, because we had talked to them before the draft. And at that point in time, they had no interest at all. And so when Marvin called me and said that, that there was a deal with Denver, that, I was excited about that. And even though I'd never been to Denver, was excited about coming here and playing in Denver.
ESPN's 30 for 30 was pretty fascinating, and I assume accurate. Naturally, I'm sure you've seen that by now, but it was kind of interesting to follow Marvin's whole perspective of that first round.
It really was. And it was, because he also had Danny at the time, Danny Marino at the time too. And so, I knew there was the 5 other quarterbacks. I didn't have any idea what was going on with the other quarterbacks. And so that's why that 30 for 30 was just as interesting for me. I kind of knew what was going on with me, but I didn't have any idea what was going on with Jim Kelly as well as Dan Marino. And so it was very interesting for me to watch. And plus all of Marvin's notes, a lot of those notes I hadn't heard either. A lot of them got relayed to my dad and not to me, because my dad was obviously a very focal point in the whole situation too. And so there's a lot of notes that Marvin had that I hadn't heard. So it was very interesting hearing everything that had gone on, and the notes that Marvin had taken, and the detail that he had with it.
You say that Denver hadn't had interest before, but the day of the draft, the day that Baltimore took you, Edgar Kaiser told me in the hallway, we are moving on Elway. We're halfway there. We have halfway to go.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. And that, like I said, none of those things I'd heard of. I know, what I remember Marvin telling me is when we called Denver and we had told them what we wanted in a contract. And in Denver, the thing I got back from Denver was, well, there's no football player worth that. So that's why I never thought Denver was ever in the equation.
That's pretty cool. So the charter flight, was that the Edgar Kaiser's plane?
It was, yeah. Edgar. Well, actually, I got on the airplane, and then we flew to Seattle to pick up Edgar, and then flew from Seattle to Denver. And so then when we landed, I think it's Centennial. I can't even remember. And then I never even got off the airplane. Everyone got onto the airplane. We got the contract signed right then and there. And so I hadn't touched down. I hadn't touched a foot in Denver before I had my contract signed. So they wanted to make sure that everything got done. And so everyone came on the airplane. We signed the contract on the airplane. And then next thing I knew, I was meeting the great Jimmy Saccomano, and he helped me for the next 15 years.
John, every second was a pleasure. I'm telling you. So you had to be exhausted after the first press conference, 10:30 at night, and you and your dad would put up someplace that night. And then what was the next day like for you leading up to press conference number 2 at 1:30 in the afternoon?
Well, I kind of had most things rehearsed anyway going into that one at that night. And so there was, obviously think about it the next day. And I was looking forward to meeting everybody. I'd never, I got to meet Coach Reeves that night. That's the first time I met Coach Reeves. And so, and meet the staff and meet everybody the next day. So, I mean, I was thrilled to because I wanted to play football. That's what I wanted to do. And to be able to play in Denver with the success that Denver's had and the history that Denver had, that, I was just thrilled to be there. And so, the next day was exhilarating and getting to meet everybody. And then I think I headed back. I still had to go back and get to school and came back from minicamp, I think the first or second week in May. And then we actually had to travel down to Colorado Springs because we got a snowstorm. And so our minicamp, we drove down to Colorado Springs to practice. So yeah. I got acclimated to Denver weather quickly.
Do you remember your first haircut?
Yeah, training camp. Yeah, I do.
Yes.
They got me a police escort to go get a haircut. So it was, and I say this all the time. I think that before coming out, of trying to just seek a trade, that I had no idea that, the magnitude that, by me not saying I was going to go to Baltimore, and how the magnitude of that decision and how people were going to take it. So it was much, much bigger than I ever thought it could be, or even really could imagine it have been. And so, obviously my life changed quickly, and it changed when I got my first haircut, knowing that I got to ride with the policeman and he took me to get a haircut.
Later on, I was in the coach's, relaxation room, and John Hadel said, "Boy, I need a haircut." And I said, "John, I got a guy." And he said, "Jimmy, I just need a haircut. I don't need no damn posse to take me to get a haircut."
Well, that sounds like John Hadel, and he's right. It's much easier without the posse, but it was nice of them to do it.
To no surprise, in our top 50 of the greatest sports moments in Colorado history, the Broncos landed 9 of them. You had a roll in 6, 4 in the top 9, 3 in the top 5, and 2 of which we're revealing later this week. Rich Carlis joined us to discuss The Drive, which was number 10. Mark Schlereth was our guest for number 8, Super Bowl 33. But looking back, let's revisit The Drive briefly. What are your favorite moments of that first and 98 scenario in a hostile, freezing environment?
I think that I think the one thing that I'll always remember is, because we're in, it was cold and dark and wet. I mean, it was 32 degrees and drizzling, but it didn't, the cold at that point in time was not affecting us. We're thinking about, how we're going to, at least we needed to tie the game up. We had 5 minutes to go. And the thought process, we still had some time with 5 minutes to go. And so the initial thought on the whole thing was, we got to get some first downs. We got to get away from our own goal line and give us some room to maneuver. And, we picked up a couple first downs, and we made I made the throw. Steve Sewell made a great catch over the middle, and we really got us out to about the 40, and we really started picking up momentum. And then as the momentum, you could tell the momentum switched because the crowd noise got less and less and less. And I think that, once we picked up that 3rd and 18 with Mark Jackson,
yeah.
When I hit him on the dig route, then I think everybody really felt good about it. Now, we still had to get it in the end zone, and Cleveland they're a very good defensive team, and we hadn't had a great day against them before that. And so, but once we got that momentum switch, and I think everybody knew it in the huddle that, we had things going. And then remember getting down there, and we got the first down, and then we had, I think it was 2nd and 6 or whatnot, when I had Mark on the touchdown, and we really, the play was for Gerald Wilhite out in the flat, and they fell off on Gerald, and I hit Mark in the end zone. And so, and that ball, that was one of those balls that I still remember. I'm going, because I knew it was only 2nd down, and I didn't want to have to throw it inside because I didn't want the ball tipped to get it picked off or something like that. And so I just remember Mark was on a slant route, and I said, I'm gonna throw this hard, because if Mark doesn't catch it, nobody does. And obviously Mark made a great catch, and then Rich made the extra point to where we could get it into overtime. And then by that time, the momentum was on our side. The stadium was much quieter, and so you could just feel that. And we made a good drive, and then Rich came in and hit the game winner for us. And so, that's one of the pivotal points of my career. It was I think it was my 4th year, and so that's kind of gave me the confidence to know that I could do it in the NFL and as well as doing it in big situations in an AFC Championship game.
So beating Cleveland 3 times in 4 years. Did you ever give grief to a longtime Cleveland Brown, Mr. Dave Logan?
No, I know. Dave joined us after that, but I think that the one thing it's amazing. There's so many people that come up to me and say you ruined my childhood, and because we did beat Cleveland the 3 out of the 4 years back in the late '80s, and so I still get many comments about ruining kids' childhood back in, because of the Browns had such a great fan base also and wanted to get there so bad, and we're so close.
Of the 2 Super Bowl wins, consider them equally. Did you favor one a little bit over the other?
Well, you know what? They were totally different. I think the first one, we just had to get over the hump, and obviously going in Super Bowl 32 against the Packers, we were heavy underdogs again. They were defending champions, and so not many people gave us a chance to win that game, and we hadn't won one yet. So when you look at them both, they're both great. But I think that first one that we got in Super Bowl 32 was definitely my favorite, just because of the fact that it was the first one that we had won, and the organization had won as a whole, and I think it was so gratifying because we have such a great fan base. They'd followed and been so loyal to the Broncos for so long, and we got close 3 times with me, and then even one time before in '77 when Craig Martin and Randy Granishard and all those great players were there. And so I think to finally get over the hump and win that made it that special, and plus being heavy underdogs. And then Super Bowl 33, we just had such a good football team, and we knew going in, it was the first Super Bowl we'd gone into, and we were big favorites that we went into and said, hey, if we just play like we're capable of, we're going to win this football game. And that's all we concentrated in the prior weeks in practice of going into that game. And so they're both great, but I'm not sure because of the meaning of the first one, the situation and everything, that it's hard to beat Super Bowl 32.
Going to test your memory here. So you're in euphoria after you beat Green Bay. Do you remember what band was performing post game?
No, I do not.
Three Dog Night.
I do not. What's that?
3 Dog Night.
3 Dog Night. Oh, okay. I'll remember that now, but no, I don't remember that. I would just remember getting in the locker room and I think I was the last one in the shower too, and I think I took a 20-minute shower and just sat there by myself and just really kind of enjoyed the moment, and I had a chance to see my dad when he came in, and so it was just and it still is. I mean, still when I watch it and I see the game, and that just meant so much to not only me but our whole football team, as well as the all Broncos country and the whole Rocky Mountain region. So that was as fulfilling as a moment as there can be.
Well, I'm always known for asking one crazy question, so that was it. But when did you realize that the Broncos had someone really special in Terrell Davis?
Well, actually, that first year when he came in '95, and we saw what he could do, and I think that Terrell was, he was a 6th-round draft pick and wasn't getting a lot of reps in training camp, and so I think that where he got noticed was that the first preseason game we played over in Japan, and somebody got hurt, and he ran in on the special teams on a kickoff coverage and went down and blew him up, and then the next week he was the starting running back, and then I think that we all saw it by then, and so. There was nobody a bigger fan of Terrell Davis than me, because he took so much pressure off me, and plus the offensive line we had was so solid in the run game, and then Mike coming in also, I think that really gave us all confidence that we really can have a chance to get back and compete for championships.
Of your 327 career TD passes between the regular season and playoffs, you had to have a couple of favorites. Is that correct? I
do. But you know what? The memory is going a little bit the older I get. But I think sitting there, I think there's one that I think I threw one to Shannon Sharp at. We're down to Kansas City. We're down 19-7 with a couple minutes to go. We end up pulling that out, and I think I hit Mark Jackson. I think I hit Shannon on one also. But also, I think there's one. The one big one was we're playing the Redskins at home, and Rod Smith. I think it was his first catch.
It was his first catch.
It was his first catch, and it was tied. We thought we were going into overtime, and it really wasn't a Hail Mary. It was just Rod on a go route, and he was against Darryl Green, obviously, who was an All-Pro and Hall of Famer. That was a great player, and I just put it up to Rod, but that was the start of a great career for Rod. He got off to a hell of a start, but he continued it for the career he had with the Broncos and went up and got it and beat Darryl Green with it. So I think, that's the one that pops out right now.
Of all the opposing quarterbacks you faced, what were I don't want to say challenges, but what were the ones that excited you the most, that it's Elway versus Montana or Elway versus Young? Which ones got you fired up the most?
I think that, obviously Montana was great. I think that, with our draft class with Marino and Kelly and Todd Blackley, Tony Eason and Kenny O'Brien, I think, those were always the comparables because we all came in the same year. And so I think that, those were always the comparables. Obviously, Danny got off to a great start, and, I think he threw for 5,000 yards his second year or whatnot. And so when it came down to numbers, I said, all right, I'm not worried. I'm not going to worry about Danny because he's setting the world on fire and was obviously a great player. But, it was always a comparison of the guys that we came in that 83 draft. And so that to me is where the competition, when you ask, when I'm playing another quarterback, who were they? The guys that were in my class are the guys that we got real competitive with.
And when we had Stink on, he said that no one really had an indication that the win over the Jets for the AFC title would be your last game at Mile High Stadium. Kept that a secret, or did you really even know at the time? I was pretty close to knowing at that time, but I wasn't positive again. I mean, I still thought about it. I think that, the only thing is I got hurt and missed 4 games my last year, and Bubby came in and played great in those 4 games that I missed and won all 4 of those. And so I just, figured that it was going to be close, and I really hadn't planned on doing that. And then Mike gave me the trophy and said, "John, run it around the stadium." I said, "Okay." So I did that. And so, but at that time I was probably 75% of the way there, thinking that, that was going to be my last year. And then, obviously going to the Super Bowl and beating the Falcons. And, I just thought, the timing's right, and the memories will always be fond of looking back and knowing that, the last game I played for the Broncos was a Super Bowl win.
It was perfect. You had 47 fourth quarter comebacks in your career, a category, by the way, that I'm delighted to have invented. The drive is at or near the top of those. What are a couple of others you're most proud of?
I think probably the next one, I think, is when we beat Houston in a playoff game. I can't remember, 92, maybe 92 or 93.
91, yeah.
91, yeah. And I think that, we started on the 2-yard line again. And we had played poorly that first half and then came back and played well the second half. And then, the game was tied. And I think now that time we had 2 minutes to go on our own too, but we just needed a field goal. And so, I remember running on the field thinking, okay, we got a chance to prove up the last time we started on the 2-yard line in Cleveland. Let's see if we can do it again. And, that was, we picked up 2 big fourth down. They ran for 1. And then we have a play similar that I ended up hitting Vance Johnson down the sideline that looked identical. And the one I ran before, and the corner came up, and I was able to get it over the top to get it to Vance. And he took it from there and got us down into field goal range to be able to win it before in regulation. And so I think that's the one that sticks out the most, just in the fact that because we started on the 2-yard line again, and we were able to get it done and win another football game from the 2.
You frustrated a lot of people in Mile High Stadium over the years from the other teams. I mean, our guys would be standing there and say, "We got him this time. We got him this time. We got him. No." And that was a lot of time.
Yeah.
What was Kansas City? Oh, you just crucified them.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, because I think it might have been Marty Schottenheimer more than it was Kansas City, in the fact because Marty was the head coach in Cleveland also too. So, and then he went to Kansas City, and we had some more success against him. We ended up in the 97 season, Super Bowl 32. Kansas City was the number 1 seed going, and so and we were actually a wild card, and so we ended up having to go through them in Kansas City to to move on to the championship game in Pittsburgh. And so, but yeah, we had some success against Kansas City in those days, and it looks like the Broncos are back on the right track. They've had a lot of success against them the last couple of years too.
And of course, your rookie year, you're down 19-0 to the team that drafted you, that you left at the altar. And was that his first fourth quarter comeback, Jim?
Yeah, that was his first one. And I remember that Gerald Wilhite missed his block, and John Elway threw him twice. He hit Wilhite.
Yeah,
touchdown.
It was a blitz, and Gerald was supposed to pick up the blitzer, and he didn't pick up the blitzer. He let the blitzer go, which made, and all of a sudden he was wide open. So was able to get him the football. But that's one that I forgot. That's probably the most special, being, it's one of the top 5 for me without a doubt, because it was my first one. And then, who it ended up being against, which was, the Chiefs or the Colts. And so that's in the top 5 for me too.
Okay, off track now. In the summer of '82, you played 42 games of Class A ball with the Oneonta New York Yankee farm team. Batted .318 with 4 homers, 25 ribbies, and unlike most of today's players, you struck out just 25 times in 185 plate appearances. They're striking out now 25 times in less than 60. Any favorite memories from that experience?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think that the one thing that it really gave me is a deep respect for, Major League Baseball players and baseball players as a whole, because I had not, when I was at Stanford, my first 2 years, we played 4 games a week in the springtime, and we played Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday, and so going and playing that summer, playing every single day was a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be, just because of playing every day, and that's why I gained so much respect for from Major League Baseball players that play at 162 games a year, that playing every single day is quite the mental haul. But I had a good time. I enjoyed that, and my goal was to go back and hit over 300 and have a good summer. And even though I started real slow because I hadn't played baseball for a year, I went to spring training for a week when I had spring break in school, and I'd gone down there for a week down in Fort Lauderdale with the Yankees, and then I went to, the summer started like the second week of June, and I hadn't played for 9 months. And so I got off to a real slow start, but was able to finish strong. But, I think it gave me a little bit of confidence that, I could have played baseball. I didn't spend nearly as much time on baseball as I did football. And obviously being a quarterback in football, that's where the action is, and you get to touch the ball every down, compared to playing outfield in baseball, which it can get a little bit slow out there at times. But I had a great experience. I met a lot of really nice guys, and I enjoyed the summer, but also made me realize that I still wanted to play. I really wanted to play football.
And you had better minor league stats than Michael Jordan ever did.
Yeah, yeah. But he gave her a shot, which I admire that too. But yeah, it was, and I was with a great organization, and the Yankees they were great to be a part of that.
John, I know you have 11 grandchildren and you play a lot of golf. Are those the things that keep you busiest these days? Yeah,
it is. It's other than keeping track of all my other stuff and doing that, I kind of say that this where I am at 66 years old now, and back in the days, got beat up a little bit. So as long as I'm staying moving and moving around, and that's what I use golf for, is to get out and get outside and move around, keep this body moving. So that's kind of been my next challenge, is be the best player I can be on the golf course and play. And I enjoy it. I love, the competitive side never dwindles. I'm still as competitive as I've ever been. So that's, golf fills that for me, which is great. Plus it keeps me moving, and I'm outside. And so I'm enjoying that. And yeah, life's good. All the kids are happy and they're all healthy. And so we're in a good spot.
Wonderful, John.
My last question. You've won championships. You've won awards, among so many other experiences, but on your list of memories, you thought this might have come up. Where does that crazy Cal Stanford game fit in? And what do you think of both schools being in the ACC?
Well, first of all, I hate the fact that the Pac-12 just kind of disintegrated a few years ago, which is amazing to me, which is sad because the Pac-12 was such a great conference. And so, just sad to see that the way that went and now have the Cal and Stanford, traveling, which is always a disadvantage when you're traveling coast to coast all the time. Cause even though we're in Denver, we're still going east. It was always difficult because of the time change. Plus it was the longer flights, but I think it makes it very difficult on them competing in the ACC just because of travel time and time spent on airplanes. But the Stanford Cal game, it's something that it's there. And I think a lot of people didn't realize that was my last game my senior year, and so at the time it was a heck of a lot more disappointing than it is now. But I kind of look back and laugh at it now. But yeah, that was one lesson though that I think that always stuck in my head is the fact that, until that clock says 0-0-0, a football game is not over. And so I think in the long run, it taught me a good lesson, which helped me down the line. But obviously it was very disappointing at the time. And we were supposed to be heading to a bowl game and didn't get a chance to go to a bowl game. So I'm very fortunate in the fact that we were able to make up for that in the NFL.
John, we really, really appreciate your taking the time out from your busy schedule to join us today. We are honored, John.
Yes, we are.
Well, my pleasure. And I appreciate the memories. It's always fun going back and talking about the memories. And it's nice to know that, I still remembered a little bit and, that me getting traded to Denver is high on the list. So, and I'm thrilled to be in Denver, and Denver has been great and the fans have been great and not a better spot to raise kids. And so, I'm thrilled to be have gotten a chance to get traded there and also spend the rest of my life there.
Thank you, John, very much.
Thanks, John. And this gives soccer something to do.
Well, great talking to you.
Thank you again.
All righty.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks,
bye-bye.
John. Great. Well, as always, thanks to our sponsors, Pasta J's at 10th and Pearl Street in Boulder, CU Sports Medicine, Colorado Collegiate Chronicle, produced by that voice you just heard, Tim Simmons, and Mark Johnson, the voice of the bus, for introducing each moment's number.
We do hope you're enjoying our podcasts, 43 in all now. And a reminder that the Hall of Fame offers tours of its museum and the stadium as well at Empower Field at Mile High.